Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Hey, dude, look, tomorrow is election day. I started drinking like on Saturday, so don't expect much.
Oh my God.
Never do.
Yeah.
Set him up, I knock him down. I mean,
I know.
I'm like Steph back here draining threes.
I mean, I can't. That wasn't even a three. That was me handing you the ball as you did the layup. I mean, like it. I was. I like. Man, I rolled the red carpet out for you for that one.
Are we done yet?
I thought we even started.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions, and I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter pounder with cheese and France, Mickey. What? Boy, ale with cheese. Yeah, I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey, everyone. You're listening to Superhero Speak. John is stepping all over my intro.
Absolutely, damn it.
Jesus.
And I'm your host, Dave.
Because we're professional here, and I'm John.
Whatever, JD. Jesus, my ears are just blown out.
Well, that wasn't me, though, right? That was
fighting over airtime.
No.
Jesus.
Well, since you were fighting for airtime, John, you must have something really important to share with our audience. How are you doing?
I've got nothing. I've literally got nothing. Like I have so nothing. It's in the negative zone. I really don't have anything until after the election, and then my brain will engage again.
We're recording on Monday night, so
right.
By the time you listen to this, something will have happened.
Yes, and if you're listening to this in a foxhole, good luck, guys.
Okay.
I don't even know where to go with that.
How's your foxhole, JD?
Oh, I'm okay. Had Halloween over here this weekend.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the video? My little boy was a Transformer.
Yes.
My wife and I were up all night building a Bumblebee costume.
That was very cool.
It was. We had to watch a video and it had no audio. It was just like music. It was one of those YouTube videos. It's demo, like a tutorial with just music. I'm like, why couldn't they put like words to this? And she's like, because it's from Taiwan. And I went, oh, okay. So we shut up and just watched and tried to mimic and reinforced with a lot of tape. The kid loved it, so it was good. It was a successful Halloween.
And you were Optimus Hair?
I was Optimus Hair, yes. Andy wanted me to be Optimus Prime. He had a mask, and my wife and I have a bunch of Transformer masks because he likes Transformers. So I slapped both those on, and we were Transformers.
There you go.
You can see how long my hair is.
Did you get a lot of candy?
We didn't go trick-or-treating. We did a scavenger hunt around, because we got the new house about 3/4 acre. Yeah. So we did like a scavenger hunt around the property. And
that's awesome.
He found my wife bought like 5 little Transformer guys for him and a bunch of candy and stuff like that. So it was just him. It was just us and his grandparents. So it was a good time.
Oh, that is cool.
And yeah, there wasn't many trick-or-treaters around us. Again, we're a pretty small town, but we didn't have many. Not a lot of kids, a lot of old people.
I didn't give out candy this year because I've got problems that I caught it. Yeah. But if I caught it, it would, there are people on my street that were still giving out candy. There are people on my street that don't believe in COVID. But I was looking out the windows and there was maybe a tenth of, what there was last year. So
yeah.
And some people put out the tables with the small bags of candy and such.
Yeah.
I don't know if my neighborhood is just because we just moved here over the summer, so I don't know if there doesn't seem to be a lot of kids in the neighborhood. But I also don't know how much of it is COVID related, how much of it is just small town old people in the neighborhood kind of a thing. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely different though.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because I don't get trick or treaters. I never have.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm on a real busy. I'm on one of the main throughways in the Northeast, and there's only 3 twins on our block, and then it's because then there's like no houses along Cottman anywhere else, so it's like go around the corner, up and down the street. There's lots of houses, lots of kids every year, but they don't make that turn to hit these houses, and all the neighbors. Our neighbor said it when we moved in. It's like, yeah, you're not going to get any trick or treaters, and they were right. And that's it.
You can save money.
Yeah, well, I go and spend that money on my grandkids.
They jack the prices up on candy.
Oh yeah.
Like, and now I got to eat all this candy, and I feel terrible.
That was one of the other reasons I didn't buy, because usually I buy way more than I need. But then I can I work with developers. I can just bring in whatever's left to the developers, and the sharks will hunt.
Yeah, we work from home. I'm not even seeing kids right now, so it's like,
yeah, that's the problem. So you're doubly whammied. You buy candy, nobody shows up, and then you can't even bring it into work. So
yeah, I work for myself, and that guy's a jerk. He lets me bring in whatever I want.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I spent it with my daughter and granddaughters, and. They did
dress as?
Huh?
What they dress as?
Well, my daughter did low maintenance costumes this year. They were all cats, but it's just like she just got them because they're twins. She got them these robes that have hoods on them that have little cat faces on the hoods, and then they had T-shirts on that said "I'm a cat," and
How old are they?
2.
I can get away with that at 2.
Yes,
we did when Andy was 2. We did Daniel Tiger for him, and my mother-in-law made like mom and dad tiger hats for us, so we all wore them. And it was the first time he went trick-or-treating, and he did 3 houses and saw all the little kids dressed up, and then proceeded to go, I want to be Tony Stark now, and he ripped off his little Daniel Tiger and ran up and down the street going, and that's all he wanted to do. So 2 was not the best trick-or-treating year for us.
Yeah, and then my daughter and son-in-law had knitted hats that had cat ears on them, but they just did a candy hunt in the house, and that was it. And then they put a bowl of candy outside for kids.
Yeah, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
See, again, if I put out a bowl of candy in front of my house, like last year, I made the mistake of not staying right next to the bowl, especially towards the end. And this group of teenagers went by, and I said, hey, why don't you go grab an extra one for yourself? Because I want to get rid of some more of it. And of course, they went in and cleaned. I walked back down from talking to the neighbors, and everything was gone.
You told them to.
People talk about like that's a bad thing. I mean, like that's in my mind. Then you win. Like you've gotten rid of all your candy.
There were still trick or treaters.
Well,
then you
don't answer the door.
Yeah,
you risk the trick.
Yeah, I know I should, but if I had been there, they would have. Yeah, I don't know.
But it defeats the purpose of the bowl if you're there. My dad was doing that in the 80s, man. The whole leaving the bowl, because he was lazy, leave the bowl out and not answer the door. And the same thing would happen, and my mom would yell, and I'm like, but little did she know that he was actually like 30 years ahead of his time.
Yes, so true. So I guess that was everyone's Halloween. I'm shocked that kids even going into your house, John, and they're not like, that's old man O'Grady's house. Avoid it.
Treat it like the house in It.
You ever hear of Playmores?
The big Scottish swords?
No, Playmores.
I got nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what a claymore is, right? Now I'm not talking about the sword. I'm talking about the
landmine.
Landmine, right?
Yes.
So claymores are the paint gun version of claymores.
You lay landmines for kids with paintballs?
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, that's not going to backfire. This week's Superhero Speak brought to you by Personal Injury Attorneys.
Brought to you from the state penitentiary.
Oh my goodness!
Have you had paint blown up on John O'Grady's lawn? You too may be owed compensation.
Did either of you watch any good TV shows this week?
I watched one television show this weekend that wasn't a cartoon, and it was pretty damn good.
What was it?
The Mandalorian, episode 1.
Oh, well, good. Oh, Dave was fishing for his segue.
Yes, Dave buries the lead. It's what he does.
Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. So we all watched The Mandalorian, right? John, you watched it.
Yeah.
Okay, and we all enjoyed it. I did. Okay.
I loved it. Best Star Wars thing. That's the best Star Wars thing since.
Took
over.
They're killing it.
I am so shocked that people were confused by the end of the episode.
Okay, so I was a little bit. I didn't realize that was who it was.
How could you? I mean, it looked like him.
Because it does look like him when I figured it out, but except he wasn't. When I have not seen him in 20 years, roughly.
Yeah.
He wasn't bald, and he's a little heavier now. And because I had to go to IMDb, I'm like, who is that? And I checked. I'm like, oh, of course, that's who that was.
Mm-hmm.
So when I knew it, I got it, but I didn't know before.
But why? Can we talk about it? Like
spoilers?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Spoilers. Okay, spoilers, right?
Oh, we're throwing the show format out the window. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. So why didn't he get the armor if he'd been in the area, or or is this one of those Star Wars confluence of happenstances where he just happened to finally get there to get his armor, and there it goes with.
I think he dumped the armor.
Mando.
Yes, I agree. I think that he got rid of it. I think he decided he was done with that aspect of his life, because he
got eaten by a Sarlacc, and
there's not get eaten by a Sarlacc, clearly.
There is much debate in the Star Wars community. Is Boba Fett a Mandalorian?
I think the answer is clearly no. Boba Fett's a clone. Jango Fett may in fact have been a Mandalorian, but
right.
he's been knocking around in his old man's knockoff armor for the last 25 years, or probably 20
Oh, that's
years.
right. And he might never have been inducted into the.
Yeah. He does not know the way, because Boba Fett never goes, this is the way. And would a Mandalorian, from what we know of Mando, would a Mandalorian actually be a bounty hunter working for dudes like Jabba the Hutt?
Maybe.
I don't know. Mando was a bounty hunter.
But it's different, though. It's all, this is the way, and the building of the armor. It didn't seem like Boba Fett gave a crap what his armor looked like,
Right.
It was like a Pinto.
Yeah.
Right.
Half of it was Bondo. And
yeah.
It's like, but yeah. Well, again, the timeline, like I said, it's. He was brought up by a clone, and even if the original was a Mandalorian, he wasn't brought up that way. Not that we saw in the prequels, right? So
Jango Fett may have been a Mandalorian,
right?
We don't really know. All we know about Jango Fett is that he liked money and was totally cool palling around with a mini-me.
Yeah,
and
then he got his head cut off.
I mean, is it just me, or was the whole episode setting up the explanation of how Boba Fett is still alive?
I don't know if I didn't feel that way, because I totally bought that he was dead. Because when the marshal steps in, you're like, is that? No, it isn't.
Yeah.
But how? And then they explain it. And so I just assumed, okay, Boba Fett did in fact get eaten by the Sarlacc, and the Jawas just picked up the armor.
Right, but then they talk about, it's an abandoned Sarlacc pit, and Mando's like, there's no such thing.
That wasn't the original Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, that wasn't the Sarlacc pit, though.
Right,
the Sarlacc pit's a lot smaller.
But
and there was no mountain.
Mountains,
to it.
But the marshal explained that the Sarlacc pit can be abandoned if the Sarlacc is killed.
Yeah.
So
it's possible. I mean, they definitely laid some groundwork into that and made it work in terms of the story. I like the fact that we've used the Star Wars sandworms before the Dune movie came out. Crucial. And because they've had them, they've always been in the Star Wars universe. They just never use it.
Right.
I was actually wondering when Disney got the license for Tremors. Because they actually had the final Tremors sequel movie on this weekend. I think it came out on Netflix. And they finally killed off Burt Gummer. So
is that Michael Gross's character?
Yeah. They finally killed him off. He's dead.
30. Speaking of 30 years, it's been about 30 years. That first movie's great. I never saw any of the others, but I really enjoyed the original.
They were up and down.
I like the first one. I've never enjoyed a direct-to-video sequel to a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
I always it's easier to pretend they don't exist.
Yeah.
But getting back to my point, the fact that Mando got eaten by the dragon,
it's pretty cool,
and then survives, and there people are trying to make the argument that he survived because of his armor, and if Boba Fett was wearing the armor, lo and behold, that's how he survived the Sarlacc.
So I looked at that as let's call this the Geppetto theorem. So much smaller than him without getting chewed up. He's just hanging out in his belly until he's slowly digested. Much like 3PO speaks of the Sarlacc, you will slowly be digested.
Well, yeah, but those worms don't slowly digest. You saw him spitting out stomach acid, and it was
very true.
Just very true. Those guys were going down faster than that guy in RoboCop.
Bobby.
Yeah,
that's true. I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, like that would make perfect sense if you're right, Dave. There's a lot of that movie a lot of that episode does explain how Boba Fett could have survived, but I think they did it well enough in context of the story.
Oh yeah, no, I won't. I'm not going to disagree with that. So
now we got to wonder if he's going to show up again.
Oh yeah, you don't do that and not bring the guy back.
Oh, of course. And someone else pointed out when he's walking away at the end of the episode, you hear spurs. And remember in season 1, what was it? I can't remember who it was. There's that scene where
whoever it was that picked up the woman that died in the middle of the
picked up the woman. The same you hear that's the same sound of the walking. So
what's her name? The woman was played by I forget her name from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I've completely forgotten what you guys are talking about.
I can't remember. Yeah, season 1, the two of them on Tatooine. Anyway, it's not important.
It probably is. If they use that same sound effect, that's definitely done
right. They're saying that was Boba Fett as well.
Because it makes sense to build up to a conflict between the Mandalorian and Boba Fett. I mean, like it just writes itself.
Yeah,
it was Ming-Na Wen, by the way. Ming-Na Wen, who plays Melinda May.
Yes,
she was that other bounty hunter that got killed.
I forgot about that. Yep.
The cavalry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh my God, how do we forget about that?
It's been a long year, brother.
Yeah, and it's not even over yet.
I know, it's been a long year.
All right. So now, here is my hot take for the week. The Mandalorian is a much better space western than, should I say it?
Sure.
Firefly could be.
You're right. No, you're right. 100%. It's much better than Firefly.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
How the
It's way
hell?
better. It's way better.
I mean, I'm not saying neither one of them is bad, but
neither am I. Firefly is a good show, but Firefly is also an incomplete show. Firefly holds like this cult-like status because it was canceled in the first season. Like you can't even compare. Like as far as like a cultural level, art level, a script like writing level, The Mandalorian is a far superior show to Firefly. Far.
Yeah,
I do that.
I think John just bit through his tongue.
I think I just blew a gasket.
Okay. Yes. I'm still shocked when I watch it how like all of that's virtual.
Video walls, man.
All those backgrounds, it's like amazing.
We did this a couple weeks ago where I did my rant about how Star Wars has always been on the forefront of technology. And I think that's part of the problem with the new trilogy is that it's very much of its time instead of pushing. Because Star Wars movies, like technically speaking, should always push, and now the Mandalorian is pushing again. It's on the forefront of film technology, so it's a welcome change. Jon Favreau I know we wanted J.J. Abrams to be the Steven Spielberg of his era, but it's Jon Favreau. Let's be real.
Yeah, you're right. You're right because J.J. Abrams turned out to be not as great as everybody thought he was.
He's good. He's not a bad director by any stretch of the imagination. Jon Favreau's just a lot better.
Well. Jon Favreau has a feeling for the story and the characters, whereas
like Spielberg,
J.J. Abrams is all about the sets and the lens flares. That's
fine. I think that the J.J. Abrams is just like a classier Michael Bay.
True. Right. It's the visuals, right? Minus the explosions, but it's all about the visuals.
Yeah.
I think Abrams is good at coming up with a good idea, setting up a good story, but sticking the landing, I think, is his problem.
I kind of agree with that. I think a lot of his movies have suffered from that. Going back to like Super 8.
Sticking everything but the beginning is probably, I'm sorry, the Star Wars reboot just sucked. I
don't know, but I enjoyed it, but I definitely like The Mandalorian a lot more. I think Mandalorian does what everybody wanted from a Star Wars movie. I think we told ourselves we wanted a continuation of the original trilogy. What we really wanted was someone to do something new, but in familiar world. Right, and that's what Mandalorian's giving us.
Right, but that's what it comes back to the fact that Favreau has a feeling for the characters, and and he's bringing the history in, and he's making it a continuation of the greater Star Wars universe, and it feels familiar. And it works the way you think it should. And he's also introducing new stuff, which makes sense. Whereas Abrams would just overlay it with explosions.
Yeah, and Abrams was very much about drawing parallels to the original trilogy, whereas Whereas Favreau's done the salad bar thing. He's grabbed things here and there while really doing his own story.
Well, he's living in the universe and making his story and putting his stories in the universe, whereas J.J. Abrams would just make it do whatever he thought it wanted to.
Yeah, and I think I had a good point that I lost.
Well, while you try to find it, we're going to take our first commercial break, and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Damn you, O'Grady.
Did you find it?
No, it's gone.
It's gone?
Completely gone.
Man. It's all John's fault. You know what might bring it back? A little social media madness.
Or maybe a mute button for him to hit when I'm
ranting.
Sorry, man. You can kill me again in one of your books if you want.
I got a Kickstarter coming out in like the late winter, early spring. I better be killing you again.
Fair enough.
All right.
Because the precedent's been set.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we had talked about The Boys. And,
we will. This is now a boys show.
Yes.
We talk about The Boys every week.
This is the anti-boys show.
Yes. I can go in a lot of ways.
And of course, last week we had Rich and Joe on, and they talked about The Boys. It seemed like they were trying to convince me that maybe I was wrong, but they also at the end said, maybe it's not for everyone. To which Teak Lore said, season 2 sucked. So, I'm not the only one. And then I had to bring this up. So, of course, I also had put the article on the website, promoted it on Twitter. We did get some feedback.
You know that Dave feels strong about something when he takes the time to write his thoughts down. I know it takes a lot to get you to express them in written form, and that's when I realized how passionate you were about this subject.
So Sergio Augusto said, not to be offensive, but I think you're approaching the show from a wrong perspective. Supers aren't heroes. They started as a Nazi super soldier program, but after the Third Reich went south, they became a product. Hooray for capitalism. The show is a brilliant critique. So he didn't read my article.
No.
Because in my article, I explain that's the problem, is that superheroes should be something that you look up to. Yeah. And there's no one in the show to look up to. So, yeah.
Well, isn't that the point of The Boys, though?
Yes, that is the point of The Boys.
And
you cannot like the point.
Yes.
You can understand art. You can get what the artist is trying to say. You can respect what they're doing and completely understand it and go, I don't like it.
Yes, which is exactly what I did.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm astounded. This is one of the most controversial is a weird overused term, but it has created controversy. This is definitely, we're a month into our Boys talk, and we still make time to talk about it every week. It's fascinating.
Nerds Chatting Movies, TV, Comics replied with Butcher GIF saying boom.
I don't know what he means by that.
Prince Humperdinck said
Humperdinck. Sorry.
Didn't like the show for those reasons listed. You'll hate the source material. The show is tame compared to the comic.
Yeah, no shit.
Millennial Mike's hyped for Monster Hunter said, make sure Man United 0710 sees this. That must be a personal joke between them. Return of the Parademons number 44 said, he ain't lying.
Isn't it weird people would make inside jokes on your threads?
Uh-huh. And then so long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye. Yes. Just gave us another Butcher gift saying they're effing.
So long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye. What's that from, John?
That's from Sound of Music.
Thank you.
How did you know John was going to know that?
Because I know John.
Because I'm the one that likes all the musicals.
Yeah. I'm not insulting John. I knew John would know that.
That's why you like ABBA?
Yeah, pretty much.
This was a pre-show discussion. We went deep on ABBA. me thinking they're kind of, and John taking up the sword for ABBA. Because I said that the Beach Boys were better. Controversial statement of the night.
So I'm sure there'll be more on the Boys later on. I'm working on another article for the website, not Boys related though.
I was going to say, really, you have more to say on this subject?
Moving on, we had on Tatiana Maslany, denying that she's playing She-Hulk. Bloody Knuckles. Oh, geez. Bloody Knuckles said, "I wasn't a fan of the casting anyway, so it's a good thing, I guess." I don't know anyone who said that.
Yeah.
You're the guy that doesn't like the boys. Everyone's got a hot take.
Every article I've seen has that before she denied it and all that. Every comment I had seen was like, "Yes, this is great," you know.
Yes, but I'm right about the boys, and Bloody Knuckles is wrong about She-Hulk.
You don't like it, Bloody Knuckles? Get your own show.
There you go. And we talked about, of course, the triumphant return of Animaniacs.
Oh, I cannot.
To which Townwap, that one nerd with, it's at that one nerd with, said, honestly,
their movements and their lip sync look slightly off, and the lines are too thin, and the mansplaining bit. Get that shit out of here. I love them, but the old show's still Exience, which isn't a word. And as far as it's funny, I'm a happy camper.
I heard the thing. There was there were a couple of comments I saw about the mansplaining thing. It's like they got a liberal viewpoint now. It's like turning into. I mean, come on.
I mean, it was such a weird giant critique off of a 1 minute preview video.
I mean, we are on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, they know everything, don't you know that, Dave? I mean,
to which JD replied with a eye roll gif from The Office, Stanley from The Office.
Yeah.
The whoever runs the Superhero Speak Twitter replied with a minion going blah 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 blah.
Isn't that you?
Oh,
did I just out you?
Oh no! To which Townwap replied, "Why the F did you ask then? I said I still like it."
I love the fact that people can criticize and do whatever on our pages, but if you respond, all of a sudden it's an attack.
Yes. And again, it was just so weird. Like, he went off for what? We don't even know anything yet. Right. We haven't seen an episode yet. We saw a fun little preview that was put together. Like, that was a parody of Jurassic Park, of all things.
A genius parody of Jurassic Park.
It's like, really? Anyway. And they can't be mansplaining because they're not men. Anyway.
Even the woman of the trio is not a man.
Well, they're not humans. I don't know what they are.
They don't even know. They never tell us what they are. They're the Warners.
Exactly. They're the Warners.
And the Warner sister. And her pet.
And then finally, we did do a list not that long ago of our favorite villains of all time. And we did get a couple responses to this. MD Cournot, Cournot.
I got nothing on that one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It must mean something to you. Of course, gave us a gif of the one and the only Dr. Doom.
The Superhero Squad Dr. Doom.
Of course.
A great interpretation of Dr. Doom.
The best Dr. Doom. And then Geek to Me Radio said, probably Darth Vader, which...
Hard to argue.
Yeah, did we even...
Yeah, I think Don did, didn't he? No. God, none of us picked Darth Vader?
None of us picked Darth Vader.
Jeez, we suck as nerds.
Damn.
Well, John would have picked him if he was here. Right, John?
I was there. Didn't you? Or no, I picked it the next week after, right? Okay.
Don was there that week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you were the next week after.
Yeah, if I had 5 seconds to think about it. But
and you just picked Tim Curry as all your favorite villains.
Because Tim Curry is like every villain.
Tim Curry. Yeah. So, Dave, I've put some consideration into your assertion that this version of Dr. Doom, the Superhero Squad version, is in fact the best version. And after careful consideration, I have to agree. It is the most successful and best done interpretation of Dr. Doom. How sad is that?
Yes. Besides the comic version.
Well, yeah, I mean, like a version of him, like that is Dr. Doom. Like a different version of Dr. I mean, other than that, maybe like the 1981 Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Like,
yeah.
Why? How does everyone keep effing up Dr. Doom?
That's a good question. He's one of the oldest villains, too.
He's one of the greatest villains. I mean, like, he's one of Marvel's top 5 villains, right?
Yes.
How can this not have been done right? Mind-boggling.
when you say done right, like the last Marvel Secret Wars, he was the one that like took the power of all of the Beyonders and created a new universe.
No.
So,
He's talking
about media interpretations of the character,
like four-stick version of.
No, any of the movies or cartoon shows or anything. That's what I'm saying. Like,
well,
probably the one that's the best one outside of the initial Doom, the true Doom.
Yeah, no. Yeah, well, I mean, Fox was going to mess it up no matter what they messed it up twice. So
three times.
Well, yeah, but only 2 Dr. Dooms, right? There were.
I'll count Roger Corman in there.
Oh yeah, no. If you count Roger Corman one was better. Like
it's the best of the 3. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's still not good though.
Right, but it's way
he talks
better
like this. I mean, you can't hear what he's saying. Like
they had a budget of like $5.
They did. Right. They did.
You guys,
and let's be honest. Bane sounded the same way in the Batman movie.
You guys continue arguing about
this is true
about Dr. Doom. And our audience can listen to our good friend D Square to tell them, how they can be involved with Social Media Madness so they can argue with us online.
Madness.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of Social Media Madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast as well as some other great content. Check the site often because we are posting some great comic reviews as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at stars_geek. The Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for hashtag GWAllstars. You will not be disappointed. Now it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
Thank you, Don. And don't forget to check out the Omega Level Nerd podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a podcast. It's a stream. They're multi-level.
You can find them on Twitch, YouTube, and wherever your favorite podcasts are available. And on that note, we will take our second commercial break, and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, and we're back, boys and girls. And boy, we got some news. All right.
Some news, some a little bit.
Well, we'll start with some sad news.
There's some big news, actually.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, like the lead story. That's big news.
Yeah.
Yes. So Sean Connery,
2020 strikes
passed
again.
away at the age of 90.
90's a good life, man. I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah. Well, he was also Sean Connery, which was a good life no matter how many years.
And he's been retired for at least
20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah. I think he stopped after, literally, I think his last movie was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
That might be true, yes.
That's kind of sad.
Well, I think he was just like, I'm done with this shit, man. I don't get movies anymore.
Yes. I mean, it's, a lot of people know him from James Bond, but of course his finest movie was Highlander.
So my introduction to Sean, because I'm a little bit younger than you guys, my introduction to Sean Connery, and what I will always think of him as, is Henry Jones Sr.
I thought you were going to say the bear in the Avengers.
Huh?
You've never seen it? Not the Avengers, the Avengers.
What the fuck are we talking about? What's going on here?
You talking about that British
Go
TV?
into IMDb and look up the Avengers.
You talking about
the Ralph Fiennes movie? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, he was a bear in the Avengers.
Okay. No, I had a heartfelt thing about Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, and me and my dad bonding over it, but it's gone. Moments passed.
No, that was one. You're right. That was one of his best ones. But me being a little bit older than you, just a little bit, the first time I saw him was in Darby O'Gill and the Little People, where he attempts to sing.
I've never heard of this film.
Yeah, 1959.
No, this would be perfect for you and your kid. This is like it's Disney rated G, old school. Set in Ireland and with real leprechauns. Like, it's hysterical.
Is this pre-James Bond?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, he's like 20 in this.
Never heard of this movie. Interesting.
Yeah, he's so young you almost don't recognize him. Huh. But he plays the lead and he sings.
Does he sing okay? Does he sing well? Yeah. He's a pretty talented dude, so I wouldn't be surprised if he could sing.
He's pretty good. He was 20, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think my first introduction was probably as James Bond, Dr. No. My father was huge James Bond fan. My father was a nerd before being a nerd was popular, because he was one of those where he read the books and then he saw all the movies. Like, really loved James Bond. And but yeah, like I said, and then of course I saw him as Juan Ramirez in Highlander, one of the weirdest casting choices of all time.
You mean having a Scotsman play a Spaniard who's actually an Egyptian and having a Frenchman play a Scotsman?
Yes. Yeah, why not just make Sean Connery the Highlander?
Because it was a Christopher Lambert vehicle for reasons beyond I got nothing.
Hey,
Clancy Brown is great as the Kurgan.
Oh God, that role that he played is the one that started the whole string of every villain has to be crazy and at one point drive a car fast and stick his tongue out the window. I mean, it's like,
he's great.
After that role, every villain was about as dumb as a bag of rocks, just crazy. You had to be overtly evil.
I wonder, though, what was his greatest role?
Probably James Bond, right?
I don't know. I kind of like.
I thought I would think it was the Indiana Jones movies.
He's only in the one.
Yeah,
he's great. It's great. It's my favorite. I mean, like, probably because it's the one that I saw in the theater, so it's my favorite. Like, it's the first one that I have like real emotional connection to. But I don't know if I would call
the movie. I always think of him as like being a really good actor, though. I think it's The Hunt for Red October.
He's really great in that. He's great in that. He's also great in Zardoz. Let's be real.
Oh God, that costume is like never going to not be a meme.
Freaking epic, man.
Yeah,
that's a 70s space sci-fi version of The Wizard of Oz, and I didn't think of it the first time. Then I saw it again in college, and I was like, oh yeah, it totally is.
Oh my goodness,
he was great, man. It's a damn shame that he was a crappy Ellen Quartermain at the end.
Have we mentioned The Rock yet?
Michael Bay. We made fun of Michael Bay earlier. So
yes,
yeah, there you go.
It's not The Rock's not a bad 90s action movie though. It's fun. It's Nicolas Cage before Nicolas Cage went off the deep end,
and it's definitely a 90s action movie though.
Very, very.
Yeah, and he was in two Highlanders. He was in
the Quickening is a.
I know
it's a movie. It's a movie,
yes, right? Yeah, it's basically it is put on film. The
problem with Highlander is that it had a good premise, but it really was written as like a standalone movie that they kept trying to recant the story to keep it going. Yeah, or not recant. What's the word I'm looking for? Retcon.
Yeah, but retcon really hard, like with a pitchfork.
Yes. Well, rest in peace, Mr. Connery. You will be missed. All right. Let's move on to some more upbeat, exciting news. I don't know. I've seen a lot of mixed responses to this article, but apparently Marvel has found their Moon Knight.
It's an interesting choice too.
It is Oscar Isaacs. Or Isaac. Yeah. What do we think of this casting?
He's really a good actor. I've enjoyed him in everything he's done. He was criminally underutilized in the Star Wars films. A bizarre choice for Apocalypse, being that he's like 5'6".
Yeah.
Moon Knight for a character. Have you read much Moon Knight, Dave?
No. It's actually the one character I've only got like 3 or 4 books of his. I have him in probably other stuff.
Moon Knight is a hard character, I think, for a lot of writers to wrap their head around, because his shtick is he's like crazy Batman. Like, he's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, crazy Batman with powers.
With powers, yes, but he's like legitimately crazy. Like, he's got mental health issues. He's got multiple personalities. Mm. So based on that, and if you do the early 80s run, I forgot who wrote the early 80s run on Moon Knight. I'm blanking at the moment. That is a good run where they do utilize the different personalities of Mark Spector. So I think that having a good actor that is valuable out of the hood could work if that's the interpretation they're going with, that's the most successful version. So I think that's what they should do. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. What about you, John? What do you think?
Well, the only reason I know anything about Moon Knight is because you guys mentioned it on the podcast, or you've mentioned it like when we started doing this podcast, and some of that's sunk in, and then I started catching up on stuff on YouTube, with several people that talk about everything that's coming out on the comic book. So, I don't know. I mean, his backstory is pretty damn crazy, and to make that into a movie, well, Marvel's the only one that I'd say could do it.
Doug mentioned Bill Sienkiewicz. That was the creative team on the first Moon Knight series.
So,
good team.
Last story I heard about, he was like working with, what's the god's name that gave him his power? Khonshu, right? So he's like working with Khonshu to steal everybody's powers in the Marvel universe.
That's like one of the most current stories going on in the MCU. But he's doing it to try to like save the universe or something.
And it's in continuity.
Yes. Which it's funny because my son actually said, do you think Marvel's going to use that story in the TV show? And I'm like,
it couldn't.
Probably not, at least on the first season.
Yeah. The easiest thing to do is to adapt the old Doug Menschman's Bill Sienkiewicz stories. Like they seem to, when they do the adaptations, they seem to boil it down to the essences of the character when they were at their most successful. So that seems to be definitely the easiest interpretation to do. If you got a good-looking guy like Oscar Isaacs, you want to show him a little bit, Yeah. Then again, they got Pedro Pascal playing the Mandalorian. He don't take his damn helmet off. So what do I know?
Hey, when you can act that well, it goes right through the suit.
There are rumors. There's some behind-the-scenes drama with that. Apparently, he has said he wants more scenes with him without the helmet on. So I don't know what's going on with that, but
this is not the way.
Exactly.
Let's see where it goes.
Yes, we'll see where that goes.
I like this. I think it could be good. I like the Hellstorm. I've watched a couple episodes of Hellstorm. They're doing good work with it. Like Disney needs more stuff for that platform, so I'll allow it.
Hellstorm, you mean?
No, just this Moon Knight TV show.
Oh.
Yes.
Hellstorm's good too, though.
No, and I like him. I think he's a good actor, so we'll see. It'll be interesting. Speaking of Marvel TV shows, this was interesting. So I'm going to mess his name up. The actor playing Blade.
Mahershala Ali.
There you go. Mahershala Ali. In a recent interview, actually said that Blade was originally going to be a TV show as opposed to a movie.
Doesn't surprise me. With Disney saying that their focus is now the streaming platform, I'm not surprised at all to hear that.
And using that to tie into other movies. But right now, like you'd think that they would have done a TV.
Well, that's
considering COVID and all that, right?
Well, they had to make it,
Well, that's the question. It's like, what do you think's a better way to tell a story? Like Blade had 3 movies.
2.
Yeah, I know. Blade had 1.5 movies. 2.5.
2.
You're not counting the
Blade 3 sucks ass. Blade Trinity is garbage. It's
the fact that Wesley Snipes wouldn't open his eyes and they had to CG his eyes for that last scene.
He is a pain in the ass to work with, man.
Yeah.
And it's great though. Like he makes movies under protest sometimes, and he's amazing.
It's really sad that 3 is the one with Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel, and somehow it's the worst one. Because
David Goyer is overrated, and as a director, he is poo-poo. Like Blade Trinity, it's a terrible movie. It's really bad, and it's funny that Ryan Reynolds bounced around so many different characters till he finally found one that fit him.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica Biel's fine as the retconned Whistler kid. It's just it's not about Blade. That movie's about it's trying to backdoor a series for them, and it just is unnecessary. You had the character that basically launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'll go to my grave saying that. And it's like they're bored with him.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think you're right about Blade opening the door for all of this.
Yeah, it's the first one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've said that before, too. If you don't get Blade, you don't get a lot of this, because what did we have at the same time? Batman and Robin.
Mm-hmm. Comes out a year later.
Yeah. So I think they would have just kept going that route until they stopped making superhero movies altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Blade breathes new life into superhero movies, and also kind of creates the horror action genre that's later utilized by movies like Underworld and Van Helsing, stuff that's not as good as Blade, but it's definitely influential for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
Well, and its box office basically opened the door to those other projects getting greenlit, which at least let them know that there was a viable genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as I was saying, though, he had 2.5 movies, and but with a show, I think you get to breathe more.
What I would like to see from a Blade show is really go into the vampire subculture that's just hinted at in the first two Blade movies.
Right.
The houses and the what's going on between these warring vampire factions, and why the Reavers exist more. Dig into some backstory a little bit.
They could go all John Wick on this thing.
They really could.
Yeah.
Yeah, but instead we're just getting a movie, which I'm not complaining, but it would have been interesting.
I don't know how many movies we're going to get now out of them. I think they're really going to focus on trying to launch these shows, and I think that's a better idea, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's why I was hesitant in the beginning. It's well, wait a minute. With COVID, you're running the risk of, you're going to have to mothball. Even if you finish making the movie, you're going to have to mothball it for a couple of months at least before you can even think about coming up with a release date, because we don't even know if Regal and AMC are going to survive the next 6 months. I mean, Regal's shutting down, AMC's bankrupt, or they're going bankrupt, and I have making movies kind of risky unless you're going to do another, go to Disney that you've paid $15 a month for and spend another $30 on this one movie.
Well, it's funny. My cousin, I told you, my cousin works as he's second assistant director and a bunch of stuff. Their only thing, the most stuff that's going into production right now is TV.
Yeah.
They're providing content. There's not a lot of movies being made right now. Independent stuff is one thing, but the stuff that's getting money invested into it is stuff that's going to streaming platforms, because who knows how long we're all going to be, really at home for,
Well, and the thing is, I don't know. It's we've said this before. I'll say it again. Movies can't go away, because if they do, then these companies stop making money and they stop making these big production things, and then it all goes away. It
might not be a bad thing, though, because I think they've been, for the last decade plus, these studios have focused on these major tentpole films, and the vast majority of them don't deliver. So you don't have it. So a lot, and they strangle the smaller movies like Oxygen. It's weird that something the original John Wick wasn't supposed to be a big blockbuster. It was just something that it was a Keanu Reeves vehicle that kind of slipped through the cracks, and everybody went, "Hey, this is awesome!
Mm-hmm.
We need more John Wicks."
Well, it's because it was an original idea, and it was incredibly well executed, and it probably slipped through the cracks because nobody was saying, "Oh, this is our major blockbuster," and
right.
The executives got involved and all that. It was just, director, go do what you're going to do, and he comes up with the greatest fight scenes in a long time.
Dude got to go make a movie with a star. Yeah. Whereas now with TV, you have this flexibility, and you have the chance to tell stories. I'm not watching it, but then on Netflix, that Raised by Wolves show is doing really well. We're talking about The Mandalorian. We're doing everything cool right now and interesting is being done in these streaming platform TV shows. So, if we have to get away from these giant tentpole movies, let's be real. I don't want a Spider-Man movie. I want a Spider-Man TV show. That's a bunch of episodes that we can get some real development on the characters, because I feel like we've maximized what a superhero movie can be. Whereas a superhero television program, there's a lot more leverage, right?
The problem is the expense, but now with the streaming platforms and everything.
Now, let's say the streaming platforms. If Disney says this is what we're focused on, you're going to tell me that like Falcon and Winter Soldier, whenever that gets finished, is going to look like bad TV? The WandaVision show looks fantastic, we're in a different world.
Yeah, and look what they've done with Mandalorian. So,
the
amount of money you can pump in. And the thing with that is that You don't have to rely on advertising money that can go up and down, right? Depending on time of year, time of day, whatever. You've got this base income stream that you can count on to make these shows.
And what's nice about this too is like now you can take some chances on some other platforms because what does Netflix want? They want engagement hours. So you have your big tentpole show, right? And now you can throw, hey, you like this? Check this out. And you have an opportunity for things to squeak through the cracks. It's not like in TV where stuff has to hit 100 episodes before it's successful. You can have I think Netflix is 2 or 3 seasons and they're killing everything. That's fine. How many shows are really good 6 seasons in? It's rare. It's super rare. I'd much rather they focus on 1 or 2 really good seasons. People mourn for Daredevil. We have 3 really good seasons and it's over. And I'm okay if it ever comes back. They were good. They worked.
Yeah, it wasn't past its prime yet.
Right. So let's embrace this British model a little bit more.
Now here's something I don't think we've ever talked about, which goes along with this, and it's something you said, JD. The industry, the studios going for these big, huge blockbuster movies. How many of those studios over the past 30 years have gone out of business because a blockbuster didn't pan out?
It's not really the studios. Studios rarely go out of business. A studio they'll get absorbed, and that's just the unfortunate backside of these big corporations. Is now 20th Century Fox gets absorbed into Disney, and before that, I want to say they absorbed someone else too that I forget.
What happened to MGM, Screen Gems?
Screen Gems still get. Columbia is Sony. Columbia got bought by Sony.
Right.
Columbia was owned by Coca-Cola, and they got to keep the Columbia tag, and then Sony bought them a long time ago. And they still have the Columbia name, but it's a Sony thing now. Mm-hmm. So no studio's really gone out of business per se. I think United Artists might have gone out of business, but since RKO, it's usually it's these production houses now, or these studios will own Subwings. Miramax was a Disney thing, and now Miramax is kind of gone, but they'll evolve into something else. Will come out of it.
But I thought I remember reading stuff about they didn't just get bought out; they had to sell because they one movie or another screwed over their budget.
Yeah, 20th Century Fox is a big example of it. Where you become the name is still valuable, so you buy. It's like Tommy Boy, you buy the box.
Or Universal.
Universal's owned by Comcast.
Yeah.
But that's what it is now. These studios are bought by these big multinational conglomerations. So they still exist. They just have corporate overlords, but they always did. That's been, I said, so Columbia was owned by Coca-Cola in the 70s and 80s. Warner was lucky enough to be its own thing, but Warner, Warner's had so many crazy mergers between Time Warner in the 90s and AOL in the early 2000s, and now it's with who did they merge with recently? Warner Media. I forget who Warner Media merged with, but
was it AT&T?
It was AT&T. That's what it is. That's just the nature of the business. It's evil. It's disgusting, but it's what we are.
And Warner Media was Time Warner Media, right? And
it was Time Warner. Then it was AOL Time Warner.
Yep.
And then it was back to just Warner.
So, just real quick, United Artists in the 80s was bought up by MGM.
Okay.
And then they made a resurgence in 2018 as United Artists Digital Studios. So
there you go. Yeah. See, this is nothing goes out like it. So there's no RKO anymore. They just evolve.
Yeah.
Iced tea down the wrong pipe. They just
evolve or die.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And they all evolve. All right. Speaking of evolving and Blade and whatnot, I thought originally I'd found a job for you, JD.
I saw this and I thought this too.
But no, unfortunately, you can't have this job.
I know.
So
I'm not a screenwriter either.
Marvel is looking for a screenwriter for the Blade movie, but it is part of an initiative to try to find, how do I say this, people of color.
The answer, here's what you do. You give it to Jordan Peele and you let him go crazy.
Oh my God, that would be awesome. And it would be horror.
No, he would, because of what he's done. Have you seen Us or Get Out, Dave?
Get Out, yes.
My man knows how to do these things. And his Twilight Zone, I'm not sure how involved he is with the Twilight Zone reboot, but the one things I've seen are pretty good. I think he could actually do that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Blade walks a thin line between superhero movie and horror, and if you go too far in one direction, you're going to ruin it.
You get Hellstrom, and then Disney disowns you.
Well, Hellstrom's a different story, but this is also like Jordan Peele pitched a Gargoyles movie to Disney, and they were like, "We don't want to do anything with that." And he had this giant pitch about why Gargoyles is this untapped. You guys know what I'm talking about with Gargoyles?
Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah. There's a reason why it's untapped is because the fan base is huge.
Right. Like Jordan Peele wanted to do this movie or TV or something like that, and they turned him down. So clearly he has the sensibilities for this. Like if he's talking about why Gargoyles is awesome, my man knows what he's doing. So in my opinion, if you're looking for the right guy, give it to the hot hand. The man's done really good work on lower budget horror movies. Like, I'd love to see what he could do with Blade.
Yeah, no, I can't think of anybody better.
I'm gonna get a hashtag started right now while it's on my mind.
Do it. Do it.
Peel for right Blade.
Now. Wouldn't that be cool if that's how it gets started and then he gets it?
I can take credit for something.
My only issue is that with stuff like that is that you get one person who's doing all of this.
That's how it's always been, though.
I know.
The hot hand. But no, if it's okay, seriously, if it's TV, he's a showrunner and there's 10 other guys working with him. If it's a movie, you get a bunch of people just working on a screenplay anyway. So what you do is this is why TV is actually a better medium in a lot of ways, is that you get the lead guy, but then he hires a bunch of talented people underneath him that can then blossom their own careers.
Yeah.
You know, because he'll have a good staff underneath him doing this show. You know? Perhaps a Mark Bernardin with him or something like that.
All right, so you write Marvel and tell them make it a TV show, not a movie, and hire Jordan Peele.
I just did.
Okay, good.
Motivated. If I can't do it, give it to somebody who can, who'd be better.
Well, I don't think that's a hard thing to do.
Probably not.
Oh!
Probably not. But
unless the movie's about killing John over and over again.
That's a good title. Killing John. Write that down.
Killing John over and over again.
I just like Killing John. That's a good title.
There's already a series called Killing Eve. So.
Well, I'm not killing Eve. I'm killing you.
No, well, that's fine. That gets boring after a while.
You'd think.
So moving on. This article is just for JD.
Oh.
We kind of mentioned it last week, but we didn't really get into it.
Oh.
So not only are we getting Zack Snyder's original vision for Justice League.
Are we really getting his original vision for Justice League?
I think we're getting his updated vision because now
he's pulling a Lucas.
He's adding Jared Leto's Joker.
He's gone full. Like even Lucas didn't get this opportunity.
Yeah, this isn't adding dewbacks to the background. Like this is like
this is a reboot. Right?
This isn't even a reboot. This is like an unboot. Like this is
an unboot.
No, that's a thing. Unboots are a thing.
I thought I just made that up, actually.
No, that is an actual thing.
I don't know what this is. Like he's taken this original movie and now stretched it into like a God knows how many episode television series this is going to be at this point.
Because it was like 3 hours or 4 hours, wasn't it?
Apparently, the plan at the moment is 4 1-hour episodes.
Jesus Christ!
A lot of stuff going on in 4 1 hour episodes here, man.
You're up near the boys now for a season.
So I like, and we've all seen the Justice League, the theatrical cut. Where would you fit Jared the Joker into that movie anyway?
The trash. Oh yeah. No, I have no clue, man.
Basically, make him cannon fodder, and that'd be fine.
Well, here's my question: is Margot Robbie's right there? People actually like her, and they like the Harley Quinn character. Mm-hmm. Like nobody liked Little Joker.
Yeah,
I get to use that one again. As I was retired the last 3 years, I'm bringing it out of retirement. Like I don't like nobody. No, I'm not saying nobody. The overwhelming majority of humanity did not like Jared Leto as the Joker. So like, if you put Joaquin Phoenix in there, I'd be like, all right, I get it. You man won an Oscar. I get that. This, I got nothing.
Well, they were talking about this on another podcast I listened to, and they were like, I guess Joaquin Phoenix just costs too much money.
That's also possibly true. Probably get Jared Leto a lot cheaper.
And I don't you're right. It doesn't make he went through this whole thing of, I'm trying to give you my original vision. And then now it's like, oh, I'm going to bring in the Joker everyone hated.
Con artist.
His original vision included a character that didn't exist until after his original movie.
No, they're the same time. They're the same
was it at the same time?
2017.
Yeah, don't forget Ben Affleck was in Suicide Squad as Batman.
Yeah. Oh, true. Right.
I mean, they're in the same universe. You know, like it's all
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's all bad.
Wait. There is precedent for this. They just did the 3 Jokers.
They did just do the 3 Jokers. That is
so they could just kill them off in the beginning, and that would be fine. They could have 2 others.
They might do that actually. Like, what better use? Like, that's actually really not a bad idea. You know, because now you're just like if you have Darkseid or something break his neck, like that. You know, you're getting like a whole new. What can happen now? You know, Zack Snyder loves that stuff. So maybe,
and that would make people like it. Hey, look, they killed Jared Leto off in the first 10 minutes. It's got to be good.
It would make me watch another episode.
Make that the cliffhanger on episode 1,
or the tag, like the pre-credits tag. You know, right away.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Jared Leto's being annoying, and Darkseid breaks his freaking neck. I'd be like, all right, and he just bought another 20 minutes out of me.
Oh man, I don't get it. It's insane.
This whole thing is insane. Does this all go this crazy without the COVID? Like, is this like it's been a weird year at Warner Media? It really has.
Well, with the COVID or with the HBO Max deal.
I mean, it all kind of came together at the same time, which is like the HBO Max thing. They clearly weren't ready, but like felt they had to rush this. Like we talked about that before. But like, I don't know if this is on HBO Max day 1. Like, isn't that stronger for HBO Max?
Yes, I agree.
But the thing is, between HBO Max needing something like this and COVID, you've got kind of a perfect storm to funnel money into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Zack Snyder really benefited from all this.
Yeah,
because you think about it, you're making you've got the backbone for a 4-hour movie, or for a 4-hour, for a show like this. You're not having to create a show completely from scratch. Like, a good chunk of it's already done.
Yeah, except for all the reshoots he's going to do.
I know. I mean, it's insane. Don't get me wrong. But if they're smart and if they adopt some new technology, some video walls, maybe it's not quite so bad.
Right.
What I think is going to be tricky is continuity shots. Because like when you're on a film set, they're taking pictures of actors every day to make sure they look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's been 4 years. People do not look the same. Ben Affleck's kind of fat now. He's not all juiced up.
Mm-hmm.
So
unless he's getting juiced up for this again,
he may be. You're right. He may have. We don't know what Ben Affleck doing in his COVID time. He may be tore up right now.
But again, that means that they're doing all these new shoots and everything. This is not just the cut. It's just.
Oh no, we're beyond that. We're beyond the cut. We're on the Snyder rebirth.
Yes. Oh God.
They should with DC. It should be labeled that, like, Justice League Rebirth.
Oh my God!
Is that where Zack Snyder morphs into Jon Favreau?
No, to be Jeff Johns.
That'd work.
If he morphed into Jon Favreau, he'd become a filmmaker that I like to watch his work.
Oh,
I don't like Zack Snyder.
Neither do I.
Although his Dawn of the Dead remake was pretty good. I'll give it that.
Yeah, but he wrote the only part of Wonder Woman that I didn't like.
Nobody. The Act 3, right? Nobody liked Act 3 of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
We got to have a giant CGI fight that looks bad.
Yeah. It's not as bad. It makes
no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. It's not as bad as the giant CGI fight in Suicide Squad. That thing was dog crap. But yeah.
With the wiggle button.
Yeah. That movie sucked, but I already told you guys what I thought that they should have done in that movie. It should have been the Suicide Squad has to kill the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're utilizing the Jared Leto that you paid all the money for. And you've got the Harley Joker story, which is what everybody wants anyway. And you don't have to have the big, goofy, stupid monster. And it's a small story, because the Suicide Squad should be a small story, not some like earth-shattering thing, because it doesn't work with those characters. Clearly. Hopefully James Gunn does something better. I'm sure he will.
Hopefully. All right. Speaking of
we beat the hell out of that one.
Why not? I mean, like, it's a slow news week, and we didn't read a book this week.
Speaking of Justice League and controversies.
Oh, Ray Fisher.
Yeah.
No, why does this keep getting worse? It's like every time you think, okay, we've heard the last of it, it comes back.
Well, in a interview with Forbes this past week, Ray Fisher actually has given more information on what's going on with Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon and everything. And it's interesting because he said that his tipping point, one of the thing that made him like really lose it over this is in post-production they tried to change his skin tone in the movie. Yes.
Not unheard of.
Yeah, no, this has happened.
Yeah. Usually it happens with Bollywood actresses, though.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge problem with the Bollywood sets.
So he went on to say that he claims they had several top-level conversations with top-level Warner Brothers staffs that were blatantly racist conversations, and Fisher, that the actor now describes as a coded version of the racist things he was saying with behind closed doors with the other execs. I missed something there. So basically, he's accusing Whedon and the execs of racism at this point, and
thought they'd already done that, but okay.
Well, he was like,
he was beating around the bush.
He was beating around the bush, and I came out and said that about a month or so ago on this show that I thought that there was like he was so worked up because it might be something a little bit more racially motivated, and now he's just kind of come out and said that's the truth. It's interesting that so many of the people of color that were in the movie were completely cut out of the final cut.
Right.
That is interesting.
If you go and read the whole Forbes interview, he talks about that, where like the Iris West was cut out. There was a lot more with his father in the movie that was cut out.
Ryan Choi Adam was cut out.
Oh yeah, the Adam.
The Ryan Choi Adam too. Like it's very. And here's just even more interesting is like we talked about the upheaval at Warner. Like a lot of their top executives from 2017 are not there anymore.
Right.
So
especially after a 2 months ago when they.
Yeah, I mean, it was like that great Warner Media purge.
Yeah.
We still don't know how that's really going to affect DC Comics coming out of this. I'm interested. I don't know, man. I think there's something to this. Like you look at, let's be real. Like I know we all like Joss Whedon, but as far as working with characters of color go, there's not a lot in his resume.
No.
There's not. I can't think of anybody on Buffy, or Angel, or Firefly.
Nope.
Well, and his work with women too hasn't been.
Well, and that's just funny. It's 20 years ago. He was like upheld as like Joss Whedon was one of the girl power guys, and then you learn that he's really kind of not. And it's I don't know, man. Like I think that's another guy that kind of worked people over with his reputation. So I mean, there is something to this.
Yeah, and then I mean the Avengers movies.
There's no. I mean, and that's part of the problem too with the source material of the Avengers. Is there really is no. Not until like later on in the series, there really are no Avengers of color.
You're right, but I mean, they did bring in Falcon.
They did later on. Whedon didn't.
Black Panther. You're right.
It was all after Joss Whedon had left the
right. The only character is War Machine, and that's because he's a counterpart of Iron Man.
And how much does War Machine do in the Joss Whedon movies?
Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't think he appears in the first Avengers movie, does he?
No.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
No, it's only the main team in that.
Yeah, and I don't think he shows up in Ultron either.
Which is a shame. Why wouldn't he show up in like the event? I mean, he was there. I mean,
I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it?
He's just sitting there with a beer, watching TV, going, "Oh, look, New York's destroyed." And it's like,
I mean, like, but it's when he says these things, and you go back and you look at the man's the total of his work, and you kind of go, there's some things here. Like, I'm not saying he's an out and out racist, but at the same time, maybe he doesn't do a good enough job even thinking about these kind of things. Right. I mean, it's not my place to call somebody that because I don't know, but I think that just based on the effort that Warner made to try to make it seem more inclusive I can't believe I'm defending Zack Snyder. The effort.
Oh God,
it sounds like. But I mean, like all that stuff is removed because I remember when they casted Iris West, I'm like, oh, Iris West is African American now. That's going to be a thing we stick with. And then she was removed from the movie, and like I don't know, man, and you could tell they had more to do with Cyborg and his father, and that doesn't really go anywhere.
So I did look it up, and I was trying to remember. And yes, both Falcon and War Machine are in Age of Ultron, but very little. They're just kind of like air support in that battle at the end of the.
Oh, so they just show up for the fight scene at the end, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's bad, man. Like, again, it's hard to balance an Avengers movie because there's so many characters. I get that. But, I don't know, the Russos managed to do it.
Yep.
You know? Like, I don't know, man. Maybe there's something to this. You know,
I believe it.
If I'm Ray Fisher and they were legitimately lightening my skin, I'm really pissed. If that's a true story, that's awful.
Yeah, and that's... I mean, of course, you know, I am sure the argument's going to come back, well, we were trying to lighten the color palette of the movie. It's like, yeah, no.
Look at the color palette of that movie. Like, come on, man. Who are you fooling?
Yeah, I just, oh, man.
Can we mention again that DC's about to do a Static Shock movie?
No.
Coincidentally.
And it's not going to be directed by Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
He hasn't, you know what? Since this whole thing shook down, he hasn't done much of anything.
No, he hasn't.
Between that and the speaking out stuff.
Oh, I guarantee, because, I mean, we've said this before. You know this. Like, everyone in this industry talks to each other.
Yeah.
You know, so even if they're trying to keep it hush-hush, you know people are going to sit there and saying, like, you know, yeah, there is something to what Fisher's saying. It is true to a point, and it's like, we're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, you know?
Well, now that in the post-Weinstein world, it seems like people that may have been untouchable a decade ago, all of a sudden, maybe you're not so untouchable anymore.
Right,
because that's one of the most powerful people in Hollywood, and he's going to die in jail, justifiably so. But it's like good. Like, if, like I said, if and you got to say if, because, like, you know, you don't want to hold yourself up for life or, you know, get in trouble. But if this is reality, it's a bad look on Whedon, it's a bad look on Warner, and it's a bad look on Jeff Johns, quite frankly.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. And I don't know, you know, we don't know the whole thing, you know, and again, but I kind of think that maybe some of it has to do with, you know, they wanted to get this movie done. They knew the cost was astronomical, and I have to imagine some of the stuff from Warner Brothers' side was more just like, oh, just let them finish the movie. We'll deal with it later.
I'm sure you're probably right. Ironically enough, 3 years later, they're sinking more money into this movie.
Yes.
Which is the ultimate monkey's paw with this Justice League thing. Like,
oh my God.
There's going to be, you know what I really want? I want a documentary about the making of Justice League.
It'll be
behind the scenes.
Yeah. Like I want seriously, like a documentary, like almost like one of those oral history things where people just talk like out front and open about what was going on. Because this is like
that would be like
La Mancha type stuff.
That's going to be a 10-part series on Netflix.
Yeah, and I'm going to watch it, like, because it's got to be fascinating. This is like when Conan O'Brien left the Tonight Show. Like, that was a great book too.
Oh God,
that's a really good book. And like, I want a book like that, or a documentary like that, like where people are just like laying it on the line and telling everybody what happened, because that's good. This story is far more interesting than anything that they could put on screen at this point.
I think you're right.
It's been 5-6 years of this entire Justice League, this entire mess with one movie. There's no way they're ever going to recuperate anything with this thing. How could they?
And you know, if it once it goes on HBO Max, if it gets panned by the critics, they're going to come back with, oh wait, no, here's the Zack Snyder Ultimate Cut now,
the unofficial, official, unofficial.
Well, I don't even know if critical acclaim means anything for these streaming platforms with something like this. You just want people to watch, and we were, because like remember 6 months ago when this whole thing was like really picking up steam. We were like, I'm not going to watch that crap. And then it became, well, you know, maybe we'll check it out for morbid curiosity. Now I can't miss it. I don't think it's going to be good still. But, like, I got to see what they're going to do with this thing. Like, they're going to get a bunch of views just on morbid curiosity.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm going to watch it. I don't know if I'll finish it, depending on how it is.
We're going to, because of our show, we have to cover it. Like, we have to talk about it.
Okay, I might fold laundry while I'm watching.
Yeah, I mean, like at least do that. Like, I mean, it's such a watershed moment. Like, if you look at like the trajectories of Avengers and Justice League, two remarkably similar properties handled in remarkably different ways. It's fascinating.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny too, because like I've said it before too, and there are times where it feels like Warner Brothers is still stuck in we talked about it. Blade saving the movie industry and changing how superhero movies were doing
because of Warner Brothers.
And Warner Brothers was making Batman and Robin, and sometimes it feels like there are still execs at Warner Brothers who are still stuck in that mindset.
And they talk about, and it's weird because it's literally a different generation of people. There's been 2 corporate mergers since Batman and Robin world, but at the same time, they talk about cultural climates and how corporations have these cultures and mentalities behind them, and you can see it. Like Warner is, even with completely different people, the culture at Warner is still the culture at Warner.
Yep.
It's mind-boggling, really. It's like the culture at Disney, completely different. Like,
yes,
it's weird.
It's also frustrating.
Oh, incredibly! As a DC fan, it's remarkably frustrating. When your only good movies are things you fall backwards into.
Well, as this podcast's chief DC apologist, I'm sorry.
You should be.
I should.
On that note, boys and girls, we're going to take our last commercial break, and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right. Main topic.
I like DC too. I apologize for them.
I know, but it's on my cards.
Oh, well, fair enough.
I thought since we didn't read a book, and I didn't think of a topic earlier, I came up with something real quick, and I thought we could do this real quick and real fun. I said, but let's pick movies and say which one is better out of 2 different movies, right? And we have to say why we think one is better than the other. To give you an example, the first one, Batman 89 versus Batman Begins.
We should have led with this.
We never lead. We never lead with the main event. We don't do that.
I know.
So John, you can go first since you're the DC apologist. Batman 89 versus Batman Begins. Which is the better movie and why?
This is a tough one. But if you take, so like Batman 89, there's nostalgia involved with that. Because back then when that came out, you're like, oh my God, Batman on the big screen. This is going to be awesome. And that was Michael Keaton, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So who turns out to be like, you go back and you watch that now and you get hints of just how good he actually is. Like back then it was like, oh my God, Michael Keaton, you mean Mr. Mom? You're going to put him in that. But he turned out he was pretty damn good. But then, Batman Begins, it's like the new darker, DC universe stuff, more serious. Although Batman 89 wasn't, it was pretty serious. It was a little
for the era,
a little comic-y, not quite like Batman 1960s show, but not campy too much. But my personal preference is I like to see a darker Batman, and Batman Begins was a really, really good way to start it off. It got me the one scene in Batman Begins that really got me was when they were within the container. Was it in the midst of the containers, and the bad guy's backing up, going, "Where are you?" And then you get into frame and there's Batman hanging upside down going, here. Yeah.
Great
it's scene. Like, that's Batman, damn it. It's not the one that walks into a well-lit room and puts up his fists and goes, okay, let's do it. It's the guy who comes out of nowhere from the night because he's got everything planned and just, takes people out left and right. And before you know it, you've lost all of your minions. So I'd go with Batman Begins personally, although Batman 89 for its time and for what it did for the series, it's close second for me.
Afraid to make a commitment. Okay, JD, what do you think?
I'm on a similar plane as John with this. It's hard for me because Batman 89 is a movie that's very special to me. I was the first movie that I counted down to watch. It was the first movie that that felt like an event to me. I was the right age at the right time, and it literally changed the direction of my life. Batman 89. A lot of it hasn't aged well, but the reason a lot of it hasn't aged well is because Batman 89 set the tone for what these movies could be. Like before Batman 89, it was bang, bop, zip. Like when Batman 89 came out, it was like, oh man, superhero movies are serious now. And it's a Tim Burton movie, but it's the most urban kind of nerd gritty that a Tim Burton movie could be. And like I said, some of it hasn't aged well. Some of it's aged fantastic. When you talk about Michael Keaton, we've kind of come full circle. When Michael Keaton, we've come two circles. When Michael Keaton was cast as Batman, people were like, oh, it's a terrible choice. He does it, and everyone's like, this is Batman. This guy is amazing. He's fantastic. And then about 15 years after, it's like, Michael Keaton really wasn't that good as Batman. Overrated, blah blah blah. And we've kind of come back around to being like, no, he was awesome. Like everything, Michael Keaton was a really good Batman. So I mean, like we've kind of, as a culture, struggled with Michael Keaton as Batman. I love the movie, but that being said, I do think Batman Begins is just a better movie. And to be fair, I haven't seen it in a while. I do need to give it a look with a fresh set of eyes. But I do think that the Batman Begins film, it lays in closer to what Batman the comic character is. Whereas Batman 89 is a cultural touchstone. Batman Begins is the better movie that gives us, in my opinion, still the best Batman movie ever. Like, it's Batman. My heart says Batman 89, but my head says Batman Begins. So, tough one for me.
It's sad you're both wrong. So if I had said Batman 89 versus...
You'd be wrong.
The Dark Knight, I would have to probably pick The Dark Knight.
Yeah, Dark Knight's a better movie for sure.
But looking at Batman 89 and Batman Begins, because they're both quote-unquote the beginning of a series, the origin, whatever you want to call it, I think Batman Begins is boring. I'm sorry. Like I find it to be a very boring movie in comparison to every other Batman movie that's ever been made. And yes, there's a comic booky vibe to Batman 89 and over the top with some of the stuff, but to me, that's what makes it fun. So yeah, I think it's Batman 89, but it's again, personal preference.
It's personal preference. Like I said, I think they both do well. They're very similar movies in what they're trying to accomplish. They're very different. You're going to get a Chris Nolan movie is going to feel very different than a Tim Burton movie. Yeah. And they're good examples. And I think that Chris Nolan became much more comfortable in this world by the time Dark Knight comes.
Yes.
And I think that there's flaws in Batman Begins. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of flaws in Batman 89 as well. Like I said, my heart will always say Batman 89 because of what it means to me. But I do think that just as a film, I think Batman Begins is script-wise a little bit better, but not much. Like they're very comparable. There's a lot of it's a good topic of debate.
All right. This next one will be interesting.
No, it's not. This is not even a topic.
Superman the movie from 1978 versus Man of Steel.
Get this shit out of here.
Go ahead, John.
Wait, I thought this was Superman 5 versus Man of Steel.
And does look like an email.
And you know what? Superman 5 would still win. So all I can say is Zimmer. That's all.
You can't base all your hate of Man of Steel on Hans Zimmer.
There's so many flaws in this movie, and the fact that you go right to the Hans Zimmer is so on brand for John O'Grady.
Well, I would say that the rest of the flaws are so basically intuitively obvious to the most casual observer that I don't even need to go into them. So I might as well go with the one that I hate the most. But, like JD said, there's way too many other things wrong with Man of Steel, and it can go die in a fire. So, directed by Zack Snyder. I don't need to say anything more. And that's even putting aside the fact that when Superman came out, the original Superman movie came out, it was a big, big, big deal. It was only it was the same year as Star Wars.
Year after.
And it was
year after. Year after.
The year after, right. And that's at Star Wars is the very first movie where there were lines around blocks waiting at the theaters, and that was from word of mouth. And when Superman came out, that continued where people were actually excited to see this movie because it's Superman on screen. Are you kidding me? So, it was huge. So, but just even putting that aside, it's just a Zack Snyder, like Man of Steel. Like all I can say is maybe I should have killed him. You know, should I have killed him? Maybe. No. I just no. There's no contest. It's the original Superman. I'm not even going to go into the Donner cut. I'm just saying it's the original Superman.
I don't know if that was Superman 2, but that's a different story.
And JD, we know you love Man of Steel.
Superman 5 would have been written by Cary Bates and would have featured Mr. Mixia Spitlick. That would have been an interesting movie, but Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, was so bad.
Killed it.
Warner just, went the... Man of Steel sucks ass. That's the only reason I even brought up the aborted Superman 5 thing. Like, I hate Man of Steel. Like, Zack Snyder, and the funny part is when I look back on like old Facebook posts, and I vehemently defended Man of Steel the first time I watched it. I wanted to like this movie so badly. They were doing Grant Morrison stuff like in the trailer. Like, it looked like I said, Zack Snyder cuts a hell of a trailer, man. And the second time I saw it, at the end of the movie, I'll never forget this. I buried my head in my hands and said, please stop killing people. Please stop killing people.
Millions dead.
Millions. And when you say it to people, like, no, I'm like, when buildings turn into water, which is what they do, they liquefy. People are dying. Thousands, millions of people are dying. Like, Zack Snyder doesn't get Superman. Like, and there's a large group of people, and I run into them online because, like, Dave yelled at me last week or 2 weeks ago about fighting with people online during the show. And it was because of Superman. There's so many people that don't understand Superman and find him boring because of his Silver Age interpretation. Like, the Superman everybody thinks is Superman hasn't existed since, God, the 70s.
Right.
Like, that's not Superman, the movie Superman. There's stuff, like, there's a journey. Like, I don't understand because, well, he's just perfect. I'm like, he's not. And like, the fact that he turns back he literally turns back the Earth's rotation to save Lois. Okay, yes, it is a stretch, but like, at the time in movies, like, and again, I can go on my post-Vietnam War spiel some other time. Like, we needed like to believe in a larger than life hero. The comic Superman, the post-crisis Superman, which is, in my opinion, the greatest character in fiction, like, it's not there. It's just not there. Superman the movie is the best film, any type of version, any media type of version of Superman. Bruce Timm's being a close second. Like, there's not even a debate here. Man of Steel is a terrible movie.
Can I add something to what you said, JD?
Lay it on.
The biggest difference between the two is when Lois Lane's car gets swallowed up by the crevice, by the earthquake, and when Christopher Reeve is Superman, like when he goes unburies the car, and the acting of the horror of finding Lois Lane dead. That's the difference between Zack Snyder's Superman and the real Superman. He cared. It was horrible that Lois Lane died. Zack Snyder's Superman just like punches through buildings and their bodies everywhere. He might as well be Homelander.
The only director with a worse take on Superman is Quentin Tarantino in his little Tarantino-esque, diatribe at the end of Kill Bill 2, when David Carradine goes off on his talking about Superman. And I remember sitting in the theater going, this man doesn't get Superman at all. He's never read a single Superman book in his life. Like, and it's just like, I don't understand, like, and again, it's just like, it's what, like, Julie Schwartz, not Julie Schwartz, the other editor from DC whose name I can't think of, did to Superman in the freaking 50s that has defined what he was. Like, he was, everything is wrong with Man of Steel. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Dave?
I would love to actually, I mean, we're way past it, but I would love to have seen the original idea that Dick Donner had, because he was filming 1 and 2 back to back, right? And this is like, a lot of people don't realize that they recut a lot of 1 just to get it done, to get it out. And from my understanding, the turning back time thing was not part of the first movie.
No, it was the end of 2.
Yes,
that's how he tricks. Yeah, that's how he tricks Lois into not learning his secret, which they do in the Donner cut. They do it in the Donner cut anyway, but they needed an ending, and they were like, "What's emotional?" And they said, "Let's just do that." Like, it was literally like an on the set decision.
Yes. So I think it would have been, as good as it was, I think it would have been 1,000 times better if he was allowed to finish it the first time through.
Because he was making too much. That one of the problems was that he was making it as a serious movie, and they wanted it lighter.
No, it's not that. It's not that. The Salkinds wanted to make 2 movies, which is what they did with the Three Musketeers, and it got them in a bunch of trouble because they made 1 movie and split it as 2, and then they got sued and wound up having to pay out of their butt. The Salkinds had like huge vision, but they were notorious for running out of money, and which is what happens at the end of Superman. It's like they're making both at the same time, the same way they did the Three Musketeers. That's just how they made movies.
Yes,
and they just ran out of money and they had to finish it. And they're like, well, let's just finish 1. We'll just worry about 1 and then we'll figure out 2 later. And then the Salkinds made Donner miserable and vice versa because the Salkinds didn't quite get it either. Like if you read the Mario Puzo script, it's all over. I mean, it's like Bojack is showing up and it's very Batman 66, you know?
But I remember reading like the original treatise of the character in the movie was much more serious, and like those scenes like with the super breath and the bystander floating across the screen with the ice cream hitting him in the face and all the wacky stuff.
That's too.
Wasn't yeah, but it was originally that wasn't supposed to be part of
right. Well, that's we talked about too the DGA rules, right? Like if Richard Lester is going to be director of Superman 2,
they had to.
He has to shoot 66%. He has to shoot 60% of the movie. Yeah. So you have to go back and do your own thing. And that's, you get the guy who did Hard Day's Night, you're going to get some of that silly shit.
So I think you can sum the comparison up of the 2 movies with not necessarily the portrayal of Superman, which obviously is much different in the 2, but Pa Kent.
Oh, yeah.
Because Pa Kent in the original Superman movie tells Clark, because Clark gets upset because, he can't be on the football team and blah, blah. And Pa Kent's like, well, wouldn't it be fair because of the things that you can do? And he's like, I know it's frustrating, son, but I know you were put on this earth for good, to do great things.
Mm-hmm.
And in Man of Steel, the boy saves Clark Kent saves a bus of students, and he goes, well, should I have let them drown? And Pa Kent's, maybe. That 2 completely different characters there, boys and girls.
Here's what's unbelievable about this too is that like in the original Superman movie, you have John Ford, and you have the guy who played Tom Joad from The Grapes of Wrath as his father. Beautiful casting, it's perfect. And in this one, Kevin Costner, Ray Kinsella, the man who built the Field of Dreams, is cast to play Jonathan Kent, and that's what they had him doing. It's a mind-boggling. It's absolutely a mind-boggling. Is there an actor that can portray hope like Kevin Costner?
Mm-hmm.
Like all they had to do was, hey, Kevin, remember the thing you did and break the bat? Kevin Catch. Go do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Go do that. You're the same guy. That's how I would have directed that scene. Hey, you're the same guy. You are Ray Kinsella. Now you're going to have a catch with your son. He just can throw the ball really far.
And then the other
unreal.
I think the other great point too that this is how I see it is it comes down to choice. So obviously Pa Kent has a heart attack in Superman movie, and it affects Clark because he's, even with all his great powers, he couldn't save his father.
Yep.
In Man of Steel, he can save his father, and his father tells him not to. So he chooses to let his father die.
And who? I mean, come on. Now, like, he could move faster and people could see. That was the stupidest, like...
Now flip. Now let's go to... they grow up, they're Superman. They're both Superman now. And in the Superman movie, his space dad, Jor-El... Jor-El, I'm sorry. Jor-El says, teaches him about his powers and Krypton and everything. It says, don't interfere with human events, because there would be great consequences and all this stuff.
But he cared about them so much, which was the point.
And now flip to Man of Steel. So, but he cares about humanity so much. He does interfere. He starts saving people. We get a nice montage of him being Superman. In Man of Steel, he doesn't get to make that choice.
Yeah.
Zod shows up and starts destroying the planet, and
it's thrust upon him.
It's thrust upon him. Yes.
Yeah. It's a completely different character. I never thought of this before, Dave. That's really smart thinking of you. Like, the act of Pa Kent dying is what spurs Superman on. Like, all these powers, and I couldn't save him. And then when Lois dies, he was like, screw this. I'm not letting this happen again.
Right.
you know, and then the second time around, he does have all these powers, but he's forced to be impotent because of this distrust that his father instilled in him of humanity. So how can a man raised by someone who distrusts humanity become Superman? Right. He can't, which is why he isn't Superman.
Yep, exactly.
Right? It's Dave. That's genius thought right there, man.
That's what I do. What can I say?
Kudos to you, sir. Brilliant.
All right, and our last matchup is a three-way matchup. The only character on the roster of superheroes that could possibly do this, and that's of course Spider-Man. We have the original 2002 Spider-Man versus Amazing Spider-Man versus Homecoming.
One of those doesn't. One of these things is not like the other.
So John, out of those three, which is the best and why?
Well, the best movie I think is Homecoming, but again, one of these things is not like the other. Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man are origin stories, and Homecoming isn't an origin story. It's Spider-Man already, into his career. So a little bit of a difference there. But as far as the acting and the setup, it's hard. Amazing Spider-Man, let's toss that one out right away. But Spider-Man, it's hard. I like Homecoming better, but only because it's so well done. But Spider-Man itself was, again, another one of those genre beginning movies, and it's done by Raimi, who I think killed it. It also did stuff like, his he didn't create his web shooters. It was all organic, that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm going to say Homecoming because I love the way it was done, and I think it's an even more accurate portrayal than the original. But this, we couldn't do without the original Spider-Man Raimi movie.
Okay, good. I like that. JD,
I'm going to echo a lot of what John said. Homecoming tricked us into being Spider-Man 2, right? They skipped it. They skipped it. Spider-Man. The problem with Amazing Spider-Man is they basically remade Spider-Man, but it wasn't as good. Right, the performances aren't as good. The origin isn't as well done. The villain isn't as memorable. It comes off as a low rent version. So by the time Marvel comes around, they know they don't have to do the origin story anymore. They don't have to kick it off. So they're comfortable enough to just launch Homecoming into a well-worn universe. We know. It's we get it. Spider-Man, the original, has different goals. We're still at a time when we have Blade and X-Men. And that's the only Marvel movies that are out at this point. The DC franchises are dead. We're still 3 years away from Batman Begins. So the goals are a lot different. This time around, you have to bring the Uncle Ben story in, right? And it's well done. They do, they're doing the Romita Spider-Man, the Stan Lee, John Romita, Jerry Conway Spider-Man. That is the Sam Raimi movie. And they do a very good job bringing that to life. But again, you do get the metallic Green Goblin, which I don't think ages very well, especially when you had Willem Dafoe's face, who could have actually done, but different story.
He was a goblin face.
He has. I was saying all he do is, hey, Willem Dafoe look like a goblin, and he'd be like, oh, that's it. You didn't have to do that. So I think that was a mistake. But I think his portrayal as Norman Osborn is really good, and I think that Tobey doesn't quite live up to the Peter Parker that I grew up with or that I know and love.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I liked his performance. I liked Mary Jane. I really liked Kirsten Dunst in that movie. I think it all works very well. The Peter we get in Homecoming is Ultimate Spider, the original Ultimate Spider-Man, right? That is not the Spider-Man any of us really grew up with. We all grew up with the older Spider-Man in the 616. This is the Brian Bendis Spider-Man. And Tom Holland nails it. He nails it. He's perfect. And that's, Marissa Tomei plays that version of Aunt May is a lot closer to the Ultimate Aunt May than
yes.
It's not even close. There's still major differences with that, but it's still nothing like the Aunt May we've gotten in the 616. They're very different. They're very, very different.
I didn't know the hot Aunt May was in the Ultimate Universe.
It's not. She's younger, but she's not quite like that. they jokingly called her the Cokie Roberts Aunt May because she did look kind of like Cokie Roberts at the time. Like she was older, but not like invalid. You know, this is a 40-something Aunt May who logically has a teenage nephew. You know,
Right.
it makes more sense. They're very different. And I agree with John. Like I really like Homecoming as a movie, but it's able to exist on its own because of the heavy lifting done by Spider-Man. So this is a tough one for me. Like, and I don't know if I can make a decision. I'll say Homecoming because it has the benefit of being part of a Marvel system that really works and didn't have to do all the knocking of walls down that Raimi had to do 20 years ago.
We were able to go straight into a real situation
And
without having to tell the killing Uncle Ben again.
And have a studio comfortable enough to let characters be what they are and not have to reinvent things.
Yeah.
You know, to like why can't the Green Goblin? Why does the Green Goblin have to be a guy in a suit? You know, why can't Peter have web shooters? You know, like that's confidence in the source material that was really just starting to be a thing in the early 2000s.
And that's the point. It treated us like we were intelligent.
Yeah.
You know, like the Amazing Spider-Man treated us like we were idiots. Oh, we have to kill Uncle Ben again, or you know, but it's like they did what they thought you had to do. Like that's what Hollywood says. Like, oh, you're gonna reboot it, you got to do the origin. It's same as Batman Begins. Yeah.
We get the origin again, and then like Batman Superman, we get it again. You know, like we get it, we understand. Marvel has the confidence to just bring that out. That's hard, and that's not something that would have happened 20 years ago. It's not.
Yeah.
So this is a hard one, Dave. I'm gonna go push. Because they're so different. Like it's the same character, but it's different. They're so different.
I definitely agree with the it is Ultimate versus original because Ultimate is an updated origin. You know, it's like, oh well, what if he became Spider-Man in the 2000s versus in the 60s? It makes more sense. You know, like being a freelance photographer for a newspaper. As a kid, you probably really can't do that anymore. And
you know newspapers anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Well, like they have newspaper websites, so you can do it,
right.
You know.
Which is what he was doing in the comic. I mean, like, it's a little ahead of time because Peter was the webmaster of the Daily Bugle website in the Ultimate Universe.
But, you know, I'm sorry. It's Andrew Garfield or nothing.
Really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I was going to say, wow, that's a hot take.
Yeah.
I was mind-boggled for a minute there. I was saying, how's Dave going to justify this?
So I don't know either, because my only issue with Homecoming is that, and it's my issue with all of the post Civil War Marvel movies, is does the whole thing work by itself?
No.
Right, exactly. Like he got the costume actually in Civil War. There is no origin. He's just Spider-Man. And I understand, like, we don't want to retell the origin again, but you know,
isn't it Iron Man Part 20?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's Iron Man Part 20. But
it's still treating us like we're like intelligent beings. It's like, okay, they didn't have to waste an entire movie going, okay, here's Uncle Ben. Oh, Uncle Ben died. Okay, you know, Spider-Man's really sad. It's like, it's Marvel going, okay, you guys are fans. We know why you're here. You're fans. You know who Spider-Man is. Let's get to the action.
No, I don't buy that. I think part of because again, I get that people don't want to see the origin ever again, but they don't even touch on it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's Spider-Man 2. They got away with giving us Spider-Man 2 with skipping Spider-Man 1.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the whole thing. It's like they don't even touch on his origin at all. And
but that's
ballsy.
Fine.
So ballsy. And most people think that. And that's why the movie does work. But like I said, the reason I can't pick is Dave's spot on. Like it can't exist on its own. Can't.
Like, if you saw no other Marvel movies and you went and watched Homecoming, it doesn't work.
Who is Robert Downey Jr.? What is this guy? What are these people? What's going on?
Right.
Why did aliens attack New York before the credits? What the hell? Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It doesn't, and then none of the Marvel movies none of the second wave beyond Marvel movies work on their own, but they're not supposed to.
Right.
Like that's a feature. That's not a flaw. Like it's like I said, we've talked about it in the show. It's a TV franchise now more than a movie franchise.
Yeah. So,
but I get it. I think you're right.
So I don't know. I'm torn. I really am between two of them. It's kind of why maybe Amazing Spider-Man wins, because I can't pick between the other two. No? No, that doesn't work either.
That's like a King Solomon's choice. Oh, we'll cut the baby in half.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, fine. I will go. I'm sorry. I'll go with the nostalgia and go with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
You know, I'm surprised you made that pick, but I understand exactly why you did it, and it makes complete sense.
So,
that was fun. That was way more. It was way more fun than I thought that was going to be, Dave. Good call this week.
All right. On that note, I think we can wrap it up with some recommendations for our audience. So JD, you have any recommendations for our audience?
I started a book, reading a book. I want to write a ghost story coming up, and I don't know how to do it. So, just how to portray it. So I went and picked up one of like the most famous ghost story books of the latter half of the 20th century, and that was Peter Straub's Ghost Story. And I remember seeing the movie when I was a little kid. It had a young, super hot Alice Krieg in it, but I don't remember a lot of it. So reading this is like, it's not tripping anything, like as far as memories go for me. It's a weird book, man. It's like super, super weird. If you're looking for something, I know we're after Halloween, but if you're looking for, something spooky that's a little bit older and not modern, like a more of a classic book, let me recommend Peter Straub's Ghost Story. I'm not done with it yet, but I'm really enjoying it.
Cool. John?
Well, in the world of anime, on Netflix, there's a new show called Blood of Zeus. It's not really anime. It's American animation, pretty much. No subtitles. But it's done pretty well, actually.
What's it about? Sounds cool. I like the title.
It's as it says in the beginning of the first episode. It's one of the tales of the gods that didn't make it out of the age of verbal storytelling, like one of the ones that were never written down. It's about another one of Zeus's children, another hero, but it's actually executed very well. So that's something you could check out.
Sounds cool.
Cool.
Dave?
Well, of course, I'm going to recommend, first, I recommend that you go to superheroespeak.com, where you can find the podcast every week. Links to all our social media at the top of the page. And of course, we have a couple more comic book reviews that were just put up there by our good friend D Square, and more coming this week. But I'm going to recommend, number one, make sure you're watching The Mandalorian, because I'm sure we're going to keep talking about it. Because we're all old and we love Boba Fett. And, now that he's on the show.
Who don't love Boba Fett? Come on, man.
Let's see where this goes.
How's he going to die this time?
Is he gonna die this time?
He's like he's what's the South Park character? He's like Kenny. He's the Kenny of some.
But we had a follower on Twitter reach out to us, Crystal Vagan, and she recommended her book, and I quite enjoyed it, so I'm going to recommend it for anyone who has small children. It's called Robbie Zero, Supergirl Hero, and it's a book about a girl superhero. She gets bullied in school, and then her bully ends up in trouble, and she has the ability to get him out of trouble. So will she? That's the question. So, I think people should check it out, and thank you, Crystal, for recommending it to us. So, all right. On that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for listening. And don't let you keep caught in the door. Have a good week.